I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a thrilling sci-fi adventure that blends history, technology, and a global catastrophe. All in the mix, all of it amazing. It's written by one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite authors. His name is Albert L. Clark, and the book he has penned is powerful. It is called Ancient Destiny, Ship. In the book, he crafts a world where the forgotten knowledge of Atlantis, a mysterious spaceship, and a team of brilliant women may be humanity's only hope against a huge asteroid. If you love high-stakes sci-fi, intelligent heroines, and a gripping story rooted in both history and science, this is a book you won't want to miss. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us once again here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Bookside Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Albert, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
No, good to talk with you again.
Wonderful to have you on the show. Always, you're one of my favorite guests, no doubt. You have a background in military technology. Tell us how this helped craft this book, how it influenced the story.
Okay, well, I've always been interested in science fiction. I started reading science fiction about the fourth grade after giving up on cowboy stories and horse stories. So I started reading science fiction, and I just sort of ran out of science fiction that I liked. I don't like Dungeons and Dragons type science fiction stories, so I decided to write a science fiction story based on science. Well, my background is for 10 years during the Reagan administration, actually starting with President Carter. I worked research and development on a pretty wide basis. I would travel for a week to one of the development programs and lay out a schedule, a 20 or 30-year schedule for developing a new weapon system or space program. And then I'd go away, and a few weeks later, I'd go off again to some mysterious location to help them plan another 20 or 30-year program. So basically, about once a month, I traveled somewhere, and I couldn't tell my supervisors where I was for several levels up. Uh, a general officer in our department would call me up and say, "Go down and pick up your tickets and go where it says and talk to a general when you get there." So I would, and they would tell me after I got there, they'd tell me why I was there and what we were planning on. Mm. So one of the few issues I can talk about is global positioning system. Mm-hmm. When I went to work with them, they had 6 satellites and were out of money. So I had to learn what GPS was and then write up a white paper for Congress to get the few $1 billion to put up another 20 satellites.
Wow. Amazing.
So,
amazing. So, that's when the technology was young. It's developed a lot since then, right?
Yeah. Well, I envisioned in that paper the original receiver for the GPS would fit on an aircraft carrier, but nothing smaller.
Wow. Amazing.
It wouldn't fit on a destroyer or a battleship. It had to be an aircraft carrier that had lots of deck space. Anyway, in this 30-page paper, I didn't know about cell phones yet because they hadn't been invented.
Yeah.
But I did envision that you would be able to carry it around like a walkie-talkie, and it would give you your precise location and would allow our close air support airplanes to know exactly where our troops were if they were bombing the bad guys just a few hundred feet away.
Amazing.
So that exact position is very important. However, we didn't want the enemies to have it. So part of my white paper said we'd have 2 channels. One would be used for civilians, and it would eventually get small enough that they would have it, in cars and airplanes and boats and small boats and so forth, where people could know exactly where they were globally within a few feet. But for civilian use, it would use one frequency, and for military, it'd use a different frequency. So if we had somebody trying to use GPS against us by guiding missiles into precise locations. We could just turn off the civilian side. And that's why for years, the Europeans and the Russians have been trying to develop their own GPS, haven't succeeded yet.
Yeah.
Our GPS is the primary. And of course, I told Congress that if you approve these other extra satellites, we have just invented a multi-billion-dollar industry for U.S. companies.
Hmm.
So
And that
Congress
was
says,
very,
okay.
yeah, very prophetic because you certainly did help develop a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar industry, no doubt.
Yeah.
So
And of
that's
course, now we got it on our cell phones as one little tiny chip instead of
eh,
being on an aircraft carrier.
exactly, exactly. Well, it's amazing your scientific and technology background, and it's reflected in this book, but it's very readable and relatable. One of the aspects I love about it as well, of course, is this team of brilliant women who are humanity's only hope. Why did you decide to have a team of brilliant women in the story?
Well, well, to start with, my grandmother on my Clark side of the family was the first female graduate of a Kansas university back in the 1800s.
Hmm.
So I've been surrounded by smart people. My older sister, that's 4 years older than I am, was the senior civilian for the Army Materiel Command that does all the research and purchasing and shipping of all Army equipment. So she was pretty powerful too.
Yeah.
Another one of my cousins was a key to the software used by the space program.
Hmm.
Of course, they're all retired now,
Yeah.
including me. But
Well, you're still
but
going as a writer, and that's important too. Talk to us a little bit about the connection between Atlantis, Mars, and the present day threat in your novel.
well, again, that's something I've always been interested in is the stories of Atlantis going back to Plato, So
Hmm.
he described Atlantis, and there's some evidence that maybe Atlantis did exist. One thing we do know that is about the time Atlantis disappeared under the ocean, the levels of the ocean actually increased 400 feet to where they are now.
Hmm.
12,000 years
Amazing.
ago, there was 4,400 less feet of water on the
Amazing.
surface of the earth. But
Amazing.
something melted the glaciers very rapidly
Yeah.
and sank all the cities that were close to the coast everywhere in the world, including places like the Great Lakes. There's cities underneath the Great Lakes that were
Hmm.
drowned
Amazing.
because of the glacier melt. That was just low land, and now it's underwater. And of course, you can go in the Mediterranean or anywhere you want to go and find existing civilizations underwater and destroyed years and years ago. So
Hmm.
anyway, that's my interest in Atlantis. And my theory in the book is that the people from Atlantis were star people, and they
Hmm.
migrated to Mars and were there for many years. And then they were hit by a giant asteroid that there's a canyon on Mars that's 4,000 miles long and several miles wide that may have been a meteor strike that blew away all their oxygen.
Hmm.
Anyway, in my book, they escaped to Earth and they created a civilization here on Earth. And then this object is coming back around again. And this time it only melted the glaciers, but the Atlantans said, we're packing up and leaving. So they packed up and left. And of course, anybody living near the coast of all the countries in the world were drowned under that 400 feet of increase of glacier water.
Hmm.
But there were survivors, of course. Perhaps not everybody lived on the coast, so
Hmm.
there were survivors, and that's us.
Yeah.
And the ship was developed sometime in the past, tens of thousands of years ago, and the ship trained different humans to evacuate Earth because the next time that asteroid comes around, it's going to hit Earth and destroy civilization.
Yeah.
So the idea is they left the ship behind to train humans to bring up their science capability to where they could evacuate at least some people off to other planets. That leaves me with several problems. One is, according to one of Einstein's theories, which they always claim is the law, is that nothing can exceed the speed of light.
Hmm.
Well, he's got different theories too, but they're not as popular. But E equals mc squared is where you get the nuclear bomb because you accelerate mass to the speed of light and it changes to energy and causes a huge explosion.
Hmm.
Um, However, when I was in grade school, my teachers told me that nothing could travel faster than the speed of sound. And
So
and when I started first grade, I was already reading things like science fiction
right.
and Popular Science magazine and Popular Mechanics magazine, and I knew that Americans had traveled in the X1 faster than the speed of light,
Sound.
faster than the speed of sound.
Right. Because they
So I
break the
knew,
sound barrier, right?
yeah, so I knew we could break the sound barrier. Matter of fact, they think that Spitfires in the Battle of Great Britain with the Germans, they think some Spitfires broke the speed of sound.
Wow.
So anyway, I know that's not a law because obviously we have airliners that can fly 2 or 3 times the speed of sound,
Wow.
and fighter jets. We've exceeded 6 times the speed of sound, and we were working on hyperplanes that'll travel 10 or 15 times the speed of sound. So anyway, the next step is speed of light.
Hmm.
And astronomers have been looking off with our space telescopes way off in the distance. They have found galaxies that apparently are moving faster than the speed of light
Hmm.
because they took pictures of them years ago. And then they took a picture of that same area and that galaxy is missing, but it's moved. It's in a
Right.
different area now. And so, how did that galaxy move unless it was traveling faster than the speed of light?
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Great science behind this novel, as I mentioned. Do you think an extinction level asteroid event, like you have in your book, is a real threat to our Earth?
Yes, but I don't know when.
That's
In
the
the book,
million
they
dollar
don't.
question, right?
In the book, they don't know when.
Yeah.
They know it's coming, but they can't see it with earthbound telescopes. But the
Yeah.
ship knows what its absolute orbit is. It comes around about every 15, 20,000 years.
Amazing.
So uh, we can't see it with our satellites, but the ship knows approximately where it is,
Yeah.
even though it can't see it with its telescope, even, but it's already plotted the orbit of that asteroid, and they know it's coming.
Yeah.
And the women in the thing is women are great for this adventure. If you are on a colony ship where you're shipping thousands of people to a different planet, okay, women eat less
Hmm.
because they're smaller, they weigh less, and they exercise differently than men do. They'll do line dancing or something like that to stay in shape. The men want to lift heavy weights. Well,
Right.
I don't want heavy weights on a spaceship that's going to be
Right.
traveling for several years, maybe months, to get to another planet.
Yeah.
Now, and of course, these ships have got to travel faster than the speed of light
Mm.
because if you travel at half the speed of light, it would take you generations to get to the nearest planet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you have to go out and find, and so these women, in addition to pushing science, where we have to have new metals, we have to have a new propulsion system that doesn't exist. Matter of fact, in the book, I actually use dark matter and dark energy, which are theoretical, but we know they exist because scientists have said, hey, something is causing this, and
Mm.
it has to be dark mass or dark energy.
Mm.
So we know it exists, but we don't know how to use it or how to even see it.
Yeah.
uh, I'm using that to develop a faster than light spaceship, but it's still going to take several months to get there. So I got to. Women are just as smart, in some ways smarter.
Mhm.
They just don't have the physical strength of men,
Right.
but they do need men because. And there's another reason for putting them on a colony ship is just like I'm not a Mormon, but just like the Mormons, they have multiple wives,
Yeah.
so they can produce more children quicker to grow their colony. So
Yeah.
when we move off to another planet, which is not necessarily real friendly like Earth is, we need to grow that colony very quickly. And women can have basically one kid every year or two.
Yeah.
So if you got 6 women for one man, hey, you can grow your population pretty quick. Now, eventually, all those kids will grow up to be adults, and it'll be roughly 50% men, 50% women, just like it is here on Earth.
Yeah.
But when you're starting out, you've got more women to start with, so you can grow that population quicker. And
Amazing.
because of my background, I've, I have 33 first cousins, 32 are college graduates.
Hmm.
Uh, so, and most of their kids are college graduates.
Hmm.
So it starts back with my grandparents being college educated
Yeah,
when it wasn't popular for women to go to college.
exactly. Intelligence runs in the family, no doubt. Let me ask you this. Have you envisioned this book as a film?
Yes, absolutely. I would love for it to be a film, and I've had some film companies make tentative offers like, "Give me all your film rights for 3 years, and I'll give you nothing unless I make a movie."
Yeah, you don't want
Uh,
something like that. Wait for a
I don't think
real
so.
legitimate production company to come with a check for you to
Yes.
produce your movie, and that's how it should work. It's a great story. I think it would be a wonderful film. You have to keep me in mind. I might be a good Craig. I might be a good captain of the ship. You never know, right? Either me or
Yeah,
maybe Chris Pine or somebody, right?
right. Well, I envision young actors that are not famous,
Hmm.
and they're going to be with the show for the book. The 4 book series is
Hmm.
roughly is 4 books, and then the fourth book is 20 to 30 years off into the future.
Okay.
So if you
So I
hire
could be the
young,
old Captain Craig.
you're right. And Craig is my son's first name, by the way.
Oh, okay. Good. So that's a little hat tip for him. And in the movie, of course, the scientists would not only be female, would not only be brilliant, but they would be buxom and beautiful as well. Don't you think that only makes sense?
Yeah, because he's typical. Because Craig in the book, I had to imagine myself as a college student
Yeah.
and and I was, and I still like beautiful women. I just
That never
I
goes
was
out of
married.
style, my friend.
I was happily married for 45 years.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in another wife.
Right.
I had the best one in the world, so
Yep.
there's no point in looking. But I still look. But anyway, I
Exactly.
had to imagine myself being a college student, 18, 19 years old and horny. So so naturally, I picked good-looking scientists that were young like me in the book, but working on a PhD already.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
So
this, go ahead.
one of the issues is, okay, what kind of backgrounds do these women need
Mhm.
to be able to go off and explore other planets and determine whether they're suitable for human occupation or not, while also back on Earth trying to promote science to bring people up to the point they can evacuate to these other planets.
Right.
So yeah, I need my first wife on the ship is working on a PhD for astro and navigation for navigation between the stars, and
Hmm.
even the ship, which is a character that's uh, you can't see the outside of the ship, and the whole most of the movie will take place within 4 rooms with a sort of a round wall inside the ship, but
Hmm.
you never see the outside of the ship because it absorbs any kind of energy that comes across it. So you shine a light at it, it absorbs the light. You shine radar at it, it absorbs the radar. You set off a bomb nearby, it absorbs the energy.
Wow. Great. Well, you put your mind to work in coming up with these great technological advancements for the story. The name of the book, folks, is Ancient Destiny Ship. It's one of a 4-part series. It's an excellent book. You will love it. It crafts a world where the forgotten knowledge of Atlantis, a mysterious spaceship, and a team of brilliant women may be humanity's only hope against an extinction level asteroid. If you love high stakes sci fi, intelligent heroines, and a gripping story rooted in both history and science, this is a book you absolutely want to pick up. The link is below the interview. Albert, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Yeah, well, I enjoy talking about my books. So,
I enjoyed having you on the show, and I enjoyed all of your insight, your wit, your wisdom. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.